Hi everyone, welcome to the Coffin Bookcase tutorial, the perfect accessory for the witch's cottage. And this rather glamorous bookcase has been painted in gold on the outside and a nice pale lilac ombre on the inside. But of course you can paint it whatever colours you wish. And here it's also shown in a slightly more dramatic black and gold. So there are several pieces for this coffin bookcase. It's cut from matte board on the Cricut maker, and it's made up of these 3 shelves of graduated sizes. There's a plinth for the base, and again it's graduated rectangles to create a tiered effect. And then we have 4 side pieces, the base and the top of the main part of the bookcase. I just use tacky glue. All the side base and top pieces butt up to the back, so we're not sticking them onto it, they go up to it from the side. So here we put glue along the edge of the back piece and bring the base up to it. You can see here I've used pink matte board for this because it's just what I had to hand. You can use any colour. I'm going to paint this anyway. You could use the colour matte board that you actually want your finished product in to save you painting it. Wipe off any excess glue. Make sure the edges are nice, lined up, flat and not overhanging at either end. And that you've got a nice 90-degree angle. We do one of the lower side pieces next. You could do these in any order. You could start at the top and work down. So again, we're going to glue along the edge of the back. And also up the side of the base piece. And then just gently push the lower side piece on. And checking that it's not overhanging too far at the bottom or the top. And then we work our way around. I like to do both of the bottom side pieces first and then go up to the upper sides and then do the top last. But it's entirely up to you. Always have a dry fit of a piece first. Sometimes you might need to trim a little piece off or file a piece down. I put the shelf in there just to check that it was actually wide enough and the angle was right. And if you needed to, for stability, you could glue the shelf in at that point to give the sides something to hold on to. I like to run just a little bit of super glue along the edges, especially on these angles. These aren't mitered corners, so there will be a slight sort of lip where the mat board doesn't quite touch, but the super glue fills that in perfectly. If you were going to not paint this, you might not want to use the super glue because it would show shiny on your mat board. But this was really just a precaution, and because I was doing the tutorial, I wanted to sort of make it as robust as I could, as quickly as I could. You could leave this for an hour to dry and then you probably wouldn't even need the super glue. So once you're happy you've got super glue in every joint that you want it in, just put that aside to set. And we're going to start building the base. So we get the 3 smaller but squarer rectangles. They create the plinth. There's the front feet, the back of the feet, and the 2 sides. And we're going to glue the feet together first in a box shape, and then we'll glue those to the largest rectangle, which is the base of the base. So the small pieces fit inside and up to the larger back and front pieces. So if you remember to put glue on the end of the smallest pieces. Just make sure the edges are nice and level. I always like to find the neatest edge. You'll find with mat board sometimes one side is neater than the other. And again, that side fits up to the back of the front piece. And then the last piece, we'd put glue on either end, and then that fits in to the front and the back. And I haven't yet got my gluing jig when I made this tutorial, and it would have been very handy to hold this piece square. Gently prise those ends a little bit wider to fit that one in, and then make sure that they're flush. I just eyeball this to make it square. You could use a grid to make sure you've got perfect right angles. But because the Cricut cuts it so squarely, they kind of naturally go square anyway. So just have a check round for excess glue and then leave that aside to dry. So we're just going to glue these rectangles together, the widest at the bottom going up to the shortest at the top, but they are all flat to the back, so the back doesn't have a gradient. So that edge is flat, and then the front and the sides do have the gradient. It doesn't matter which order you do this, you could do the top first, the bottom first. I like to make sure I've got my glue right to the edges so there's no gaps. Eyeball it so that it's in the middle of the next piece on either side, but push it to the back so they're level at the back, and it's the easiest way to do this to push it down onto your mat or your work surface. And then you have a lovely gradient on the front and a nice straight edge at the back. So we do the same again for the bottom piece. And now we can glue the feet onto the base, making sure that the flat back of the bit we've just glued lines up with the completely flat rectangle at the back, and where we've got the foot detail on the front, that ties in with the gradient of the pedestal. So making sure you've got that pedestal the right way round. It's then easier to turn it upside down and push the feet on from the top. And then we have a beautiful pedestal base. And so because I don't like any gaps, I go completely heavy duty on this, and I use my steel bench block to now weigh this down and press all the layers together. And I put another doming block on top. This is complete overkill, and I probably didn't need to put any weights on it because it looked nice and flat. So the next thing we're going to do is the shelves. The widest one fits at the top. And you will get some glue sort of scrape out when you put this in, so just make sure to wipe that off. And press it so that you know that it's also touching the back of the bookcase. wipe off any excess glue. And then the next two shelves sort of find their own natural level. But if you dry fit them and mark where they sort of naturally fit, when you go to glue it, it's easier then because you know exactly where to line them up. Then it stops you scraping glue all down the inside. Now I found mine sort of came out exactly at 40mm and 80mm, so that's 4 centimetres and 8 centimetres. So yours should do the same. But I would still check this first, just in case. It doesn't matter if yours is slightly shorter or longer, just that each side is level. And then again, always dry fit first so that you're happy. And you could put a mark along the back as well. But I like to eyeball things. So once you're happy, glue them in place. And then get the nicely pressed base, and we just simply stick that top onto the bottom. And because we've got flat backs, we know that we can lay them straight down on the bench and they will line up perfectly. So lie them both down and just eyeball again that the top is central on the bottom. There's not a huge amount of wiggle room there because the first gradient of the plinth is quite close to the base of the bookcase. And then make sure it's pressed down all round, there's no gaps. I'm going to use a clamp there just to hold it so that I don't have to. And we'll leave that to dry. Once it's dry, you can paint it. I've already given mine a coat of white gesso, and now I'm adding a slow drying gel to some gesso. This is because I'm going to do a graded ombre effect. I need the paint to stay wet a little bit longer to enable me to blend the colours into each other. So I'm mixing the gel in with the gesso. We can't see any difference here at the moment. And then I pick up some fuchsia, just a small amount, and mix that in now to the gesso. and start to paint the top of the bookcase. It's barely off-white, this colour, just a nice soft hint of a lilac. I do the back at this point, although I do change my mind later and use gold all over the back. But it's completely up to you, whatever effect you want to do. You could also use a nice paper and line the back of the bookcase before you even build it, so you'd have a nice pattern, for example, inside the back. And I wasn't too worried about the brush strokes in this, I quite like that. So then I get some more of the fuchsia. And you don't need a huge amount to sort of make a shade difference. I'm adding a little bit more now, the darker purple. And I could be organised and mix all my different gradients in advance. But I do like to just make it up as I go along. So I'm just wiping the first colour off a bit there. And then sort of paint the second colour slightly over where you've finished painting the first colour. And you don't have to worry about being too artistic with this. It looks like stripes at the minute, but we have a handy tip at the end. So this is only, you can see, it's not hugely darker, just another shade. So as we work our way down, we just get darker. I did add some black in for this last shade to dull it down a bit. You can go from whatever colour you like. And then what I've done here, I take a completely clean dry brush and I do little swirly motions over the joins. And because I used the slow drying gel, the paint hasn't yet set. And so we just blend in the lines. And I start at the lighter colour and work my way down. And if you ever get something you don't like, you can paint over it. It would probably be a really good tip for each time you create a layer of colour, put some of that aside to touch up. I'm just not that organised. So you can stipple, you can swirl. I don't think you can really get it wrong. Even if you drag the brush, that's an actual paint effect, the dragging. You could use a sponge. These are just cheap old craft brushes, so they're quite nice and stiff. And just work over the whole piece, blending as you go. So once you've left it to dry and it's completely dry, if you want to, and again this is completely optional, take some sandpaper and go over the whole thing, and this helps also blend those joins. So even if you don't feel like you've got the blend that you want on the first go with the dry brushing, you can go over again just very gently and blend the paint even more. And it's really subtle. So just go over the whole piece, taking down a layer here and there until you get the effect that you like. And I realise at this point I haven't actually painted inside the base yet, and you will see that because of the raised bit between the feet. And a really good way to get rid of any dust is with a long bristled brush. This is preferable to blowing it, because you could accidentally get moisture on the surface that you're about to paint or varnish. So a brush is great for getting in all the nooks and crannies and getting all the dust out. Now this is one of my favourite products at the moment, Inca Gold. It's so yummy to use, it's so easy, and it has an amazing pigment. And a little goes a really long way. So after all that time blending the outside, I decided I'm going to paint it gold. And this stuff just covers in one coat. That's all I needed, one coat. And it has has such a lovely luster to it. They do all kinds of gold, like a rich gold, antique gold, more of a bronze. They do silvers. I haven't yet found a colour of theirs I didn't like, and it's just that simple. Brush it on. Dries really quick, and the way it dries, it's not streaky, but it kind of has an effect as if you say something had been gold leafed but just slightly worn over the years where it had been cleaned. You don't need any skill for this. I have no skill with this and just painted it on. You can use your fingers as well, but for a large area it was easier to use a brush. And this pot has lasted me ages and I've still got lots left. So you can highlight any bits that you like, the edges, you could do the shelves. So such a lovely luster with this product. I then remember to paint the inside of the base, and I do it in gold, and that shows through beautifully when the light catches it through the gap in the feet there. And then if you just get a little bit of the gold on your fingertip, you can gently dab it and brush it to catch highlighted edges and a little bit more of a faded effect than with the paintbrush. So this is just no rhyme or reason. Wherever you think you'd like the light to hit it, go around and highlight some areas. So again, have fun with this, don't be afraid. If you do anything you don't like, you can always rub it back with a bit of sandpaper. So there we have it, the two side by side. Of course, these are just my colours. You can choose whichever you like. The black was achieved by just painting it black and then dry brushing the gold over with my fingertip again and then rubbing it back with sandpaper. You can coordinate it in with any furniture you've already got. It fits perfectly in the witch's cottage, holds all the books and potions and spells a witch might need. And if you're in our membership group, the matching chest of drawers will be coming up very soon, so keep a lookout in your inbox. Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon.